I actually prepared two talks. One of them is about the technical side of Machankura. Thank you very much. And the other one is what is the other one? A talk titled "Fix Your Country," uh, going over everything that's happening in South Africa right now. So I give you guys the option to choose between the two. Huh? You wanna talk about fix your country? The second option, fix your country. Lynn, what do you wanna fix your country? What do you wanna talk about, Mikey? Oh, okay. Second one. Okay, so I'm not responsible for whatever I'm talking about right now, right? Because I put it to the audience and the audience made a decision, right? Yeah. So it's basically alternative title is fix the world, and basically what this means is it's a bite of fix the money, fix the world, right? So ultimately, yeah, fix your country is one of the mantras that has come out in the videos around the xenophobic attacks happening in South Africa. I personally feel like these are the least xenophobic attacks we've ever had in South Africa. If you know South Africa's history, the biggest ones were probably in 2008 in response to the influx of Zimbabweans into South Africa when the hyperinflation was happening. So if you ask me, this is the least xenophobic South Africa has ever been, right? But I'm from Machankura, and we are building a service that allows everyone to have a Bitcoin wallet even without an internet connected device. So what we do is run a USSD service. It's basically like mobile money, but we are the operator in the back end, and so a person can send and receive Bitcoin without needing an app or internet, right? And yeah, but of course, you guys made the decision, so we're not going to talk about this. So if you want to know about this, go through, see all my other talks on the internet, right? So yeah, we actually going to talk about South Africa, and yeah, South Africa did well. We are in now the round of 32 in the World Cup. We were playing this morning, so to the lucky people who managed to wake up in the morning to actually watch the magnificent game. Oh yeah, with the goal, right? So we have a group chat, and last week, what were we playing? Czech Republic, where it was a draw, and Femi posted in a group chat saying goal when Czech Republic scored. I copied the response and said goal when we equalized, and I still copied the response to this morning when we scored against yeah, whichever country we beat this morning, their name is not important. So South Korea, but yeah, we're in the round of 32. So yeah, South Africa has a long history. That didn't start this year, but sadly, when a lot of people talk about what's happening in South Africa, it's almost like everything started this year, right? We've always protested, right? We've always stood out against stuff. Do you know what this color means? Symbolic representation of what? Have you not seen people with purple profile pictures on social media? Yes? You cannot comment on this, sadly. Sorry, for now. Why? Gender-based violence. This protest started in South Africa, right? This has been one of the most successful protests, one of the least violent ones as well, because it was mostly on social media. But we've had so many of them, right? And sadly, I don't feel like outside of social media, it got the results that it needed, because whatever happened, whatever gender-based things were happening, really didn't get addressed. What they wanted was a state of emergency on gender-based violence in South Africa. But once it happened, nothing changed. Life went on, right? So it's almost like a token of appreciation rather than actual change. And yeah, so now, after all the xenophobic protests we've had, these fix your country ones are not the latest, right? We've had protests around the clinics in South Africa being overcrowded, because if you have illegal immigrants, you don't know how many people are actually in your country or in your region, right? So the clinics are overcrowded, the public schools are overcrowded. Just Google overcrowded clinics in South Africa and you'll find A lot of protests on that. Just Google overcrowded schools in South Africa and you'll find a lot of protests on that too. And the other side of it is, as a South African, you are only allowed to send your school to a specific radius where you live, right? But as an undocumented African, you can overlap that because you technically don't have a home address, right? So you can just argue that, oh, asylum seeker and whatever else, and I need my kid in the school. I don't have a proof of registration, proof of accommodation or anything like that. But yeah, this kid would do better in the school. So what generally happens is South Africans feel like they cannot get their first pick of school for their kids, but undocumented migrants can, because they don't have to provide the documents, right? So that's one of the reasons why overcrowding in public schools is a thing. And the other thing in the clinics is healthcare is kind of free in South Africa. Somebody has to pay, but as a patient, you don't have to pay. So in Durban, there was a camp for the Malawians, right? And I think they've already deported at least 10,000 so far, but there's at least 10,000 still at the camps, right? Waiting to be deported. And there's so many of them that some of them are not even getting deported. They're getting dropped in Gauteng, right? Because it's much cheaper to drive from Durban to Gauteng than it is to drive from Durban to Malawi. So yeah, that is why people are angry. And they're angry at illegal immigrants. They're not angry at other Africans. As an African, you're always welcome in South Africa. And yeah, we've always tried to host Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town. And we've really tried to get as many people Max was also one of the co-organizers there. We've always tried to get as many people into the country as possible. For Kenyans, it's always easy because, you know, Kenyans and South Africans are neighbors. So you could catch a flight, get 30 days visa free with your passport. You don't need to show anything else. But with every other country, Uganda and everything else, you need a letter. So we provide as much documents to make it as comfortable for Bitcoiners coming into South Africa for Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town as possible. So yeah, that's what Fix Your Country is. So if you don't want to fix your country, you have an option. You can bury your country. All right? So who'd like to bury their country? Okay, that guy. Which country are you from?
I hope this isn't being recorded.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Nigeria.
Okay. Cool. So burying your country is not always negative, right? These are the guys who've buried their countries, right? Che Guevara, Frank Talk, Malcolm X, Thomas Sankara, Muhammad Ali. They've buried their own countries in different ways. Che Guevara renounced his Cuban citizenship because he was like, there's still fights that need to be fought and I'll be too comfortable in Cuba, so let me go somewhere else. And I think he was in Angola or something like that during our liberation struggle. Frank Talk, anyone knows besides the South African who Frank Talk is? Half a South African can also respond. What the okay. So Frank Talk is the pseudonym that Steve Biko was writing all his articles under, because during apartheid, you could be put in prison for the wrong ideas, right? It's a fought crime, actually, to say some of the things he was saying. And some of the things he was saying was actually, after liberation, where do South Africans go, right? And a lot of his ideas are actually a foundation for most of the Pan-Africanist parties that are going to come up later, which is the Pan-African Congress and AZAPO, right? And yeah, he looked at religion, he looked at community, he looked at language. And one of the reasons why he looked at religion is Christianity is not a native religious practice in South Africa. But what was interesting is that he was like, yo, we could still blend Christian belief with traditional faith. Right? So a lot of African or South African churches that are Christian still practice a lot of the traditional African faith. I had a playlist for music when South Africa played Czech Republic of gospel music that a lot of people say is not based in theology. Theology, yeah. Theology, the Christian theology is based in South African traditional faith, right? Listen to those songs. I love them. Zim gospel music, Zambia gospel music, Kenya gospel music. I haven't listened to enough of them, but I think all share a similarity in how the music is constructed, melodies. And as I listened to the gospel music, I was like, wait, some of the other songs that are not based in traditional faith, that are based in theology, sound very American. But I only know this because Kanye West had something called Sunday Service that they were singing gospel songs. And I was like, wait, this melody sounds like South African gospel. But it is South African gospel. It's just translated from English to South African, or they take the melody and put South African words to it, right? And for me, I'd prefer the traditional gospel music than the importation, right? Oh yeah, but I'm not finished. Malcolm X, of course, he buried his country by saying, yo, my surname cannot be that of my slave or master, or the slave master of my forefathers. So X is where his surname used to be. I forgot, maybe it was White or something like that. And he was like, I'm going to bury that shit and put X, and, then later became a Muslim, Michael Shabazz, so on and so forth, right? Thomas Sankara buried his country because Burkina Faso wasn't always Burkina Faso, right? Anyone knows what Burkina Faso used to be called? Great. That means the burial was successful, right? And Burkina Faso means land of upright men. That's a very perfect name for an African country, land of upright men. Very successful burial. Muhammad Ali also, similar to Malcolm X, changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. I only know his name because when they report on him, they always mention Cassius Clay because they don't want to bury that part of his identity, right? So, yeah. We also had a funeral. We had a funeral for Africa. I believe Africa is dead. I believe Africa is in a zombie state. And in African traditions, we also believe that if you don't have a burial for somebody who's dead, their spirit is going to hunt you, right? So I also believe everything that's wrong in Africa right now is the spirit of Africa, as we used to know it, haunting us, right? So that's the reason why we had this funeral. And I also believe we have to bury Africa and let go of some of these ideas that we have, like getting back the land and whatever else, because hey man, we really not doing well with the lands. Zimbabwe took back the land, and a few weeks ago had to give back the land to a few European companies to get a loan from the IMF. So what was the point of them taking back the land in the first place? They could have just said, okay, just pay rent and made some money back from the rent, right? So yeah, we buried Africa. And on top of that, I believe everyone in this room is very talented, right? And you could use your talent to do way better than trying to get back the land, right? With Bitcoin as well, you could do way better than trying to, I'm just saying. It's my opinion. I'll maybe finish early enough so that we can, argue about it. So yeah, back to Fix Your Country, which is what's happening in South Africa right now. Why should you fix it? Africa has a book. I think this one is written in Ghana. The beautiful ones are not yet born. This is a very optimistic book in a very pessimistic setting. Right. It's basically a book of how African corruption is ruining a country. The country in question being Ghana. This is the main character in the book is a man who's struggling financially, and his friend is a politician, and his wife feels like he should do a deal with his friend so that one of the big deals that come in go through him so that they can live a better life. But then the friend, when he does eventually take the deal, the friend just delivers fish for him and doesn't give him any money. So they're not that much better off, because after a few months, the fish stops coming once the deal is through and his friend is making money. But later on, okay, I'm not going to ruin the book for all of you guys. So read the book. But okay, let me just ruin it because, I'm guessing nobody's going to read the book since AI exists. So while they argue, they're discussing the deal, the big deal, what happens is that they are at the main character's house, and the friend, who's the politician, doesn't even want to use the main character's toilet because they have an outside toilet, right? And he's a politician, big man, too good to use an outside toilet. Later in the story, the toilet comes back again because there's a revolt or there's a violent protest in the country. And so that big politician friend has to go to the main character's house to hide. And the only place he can hide is in the toilet outside. Like literally, it's a pit toilet. So the shit, we dig a hole and then the shit goes into the hole, and he had to hide inside the shit so that the protesters didn't find him. So it was a poetic thing. But the sad thing with the book is nothing changed. The protest happened, life went on, the politicians kept being corrupt. And so if you fast forward with Ghana to this day, we should ask, has anything changed, really? Like, Ghana understands it is a beautiful country with beautiful culture. And even on an international stage, not just in Africa. But are they really fixing the shit that they need to fix? I don't know. But from an outsider's perspective, I don't think so, right? And Africa is rich, or so they say. I really don't believe Africa is rich. Right? Truth be told, right? Africans are the poorest people in the entire world. Asians are dead poor, but they're richer than us. Right? Asians make more money off of tourism, and we speak more English than Asians. So from a tourism perspective, just the fact that more Africans are proficient in English means we should make more money off tourism. But here's the problem. Tourists come to Africa for the safaris, for the animals. The animals don't even need to speak English, right? And one day I was kind of shocked. I was on a flight, I think from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and this American was on the same flight as well. And he was like, oh, this was my first time in South Africa. I loved it. And I started listing places that I'm like, oh, did you get to do this? Did you get to do that? Blah, blah, blah. A very social tourist destination. And the guy said, no, I got to see the lions. And he was showing me pictures of all the lions he got to see. And I was like, what the fuck was this guy even doing in South Africa, right? They are not even in South Africa for the culture. Right? He didn't go to one Amapiano club. He went to the capital of Amapiano, didn't go to one Amapiano club. So yeah, Africa is not rich because people don't even come for us. Right? We're not making money off of tourism like that. And we're also not rich because our electricity consumption highlights another thing. We're very poor. There's no high income, low energy countries, right? You've probably seen this. I don't have to even talk about this. If you haven't seen it, go see any gridless talk. It really covers this, right? But basically, what this highlights is even if you electrify a country, you cannot fake the consumption. Right? What Gridless does, it goes to sites where they use renewable energy and they become a consumer of last resort for electricity. Because if you've never had electricity in your life and a person says, oh, let me give you electricity, guess what? You don't have a light bulb, you don't have a radio, you don't have a TV, you don't have a microwave. And it's going to take you a while for you to have those appliances so that you can consume that energy. And this is one of the reasons why Africa is a poor consumer of energy and also has a low GDP, because then at night you can't study, you have to sleep because it's dark, so on and so forth, right? Back to Machankura for like a minute. When I started this, the whole point was not everyone has internet, right? And then so people were like, yo, but the trend of internet coverage is going upwards, right? Don't I feel like that is going to get in the way of the adoption, right? And my thing was, yo, technically South Africa is already above the world average with regards to internet coverage, but people still use USSD because they don't always have internet. USSD is convenient, right? And they don't always have a smartphone. So USSD works whether you have a feature phone or a smartphone. So USSD in South Africa is still big. Every bank in South Africa has a USSD interface. So that's one of my arguments. But then I would also look at the other countries, or Sub-Saharan Africa is trending lower than the world average. So we are actually keeping the world average low. right? And I look at specific countries. Kenya, I was shocked because Kenya has probably some of the best connectivity across the continent, right? Everywhere I go, I have an internet connection, even in the most remote places in Kenya, right? I think the Fossil Fuels for Africa guys in Kisii are uploading 4K videos from their village, right? And I'm like, oh, the Kenyan internet is good. But when you look at the population, this is the stat. Only 30% of the Kenyan population have access to the internet, which is not good, right? Then I look at India, which did something marvelous, right? India was basically the same as Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, depending on how racist you want to make it sound. But around 2017, they were like, okay, cool, let us do something about that. And they literally put 70% of their population on the internet through feature phones with an internet connection, right? And South Africa, it's a similar thing. We had feature phones with an internet connection for a while, and India did the same thing. But what they did is give the feature phones 4G and make the feature phones run HTML5 apps. So you could do way more than what a normal feature phone does, right? WhatsApp runs on a 4G HTML5 feature phone, which is why it's good. And yeah, human action. So this is what I think the solution would look like. Human action is required. And humans act because of discomfort, right? And just if you can identify what a discomfort is, you can make money off it. And this is entrepreneurial. So I'm going to go over that again. This is the title of a book by Ludwig von Mises. It's an economics book, 800 pages, highly recommended. And it also separates how human acts from how animals act. This is very important. As Africans, we get caught in the trap of using animals as an analogy for why we do certain things. Never in your damn life do that, right? You're not an animal, right? Animals cannot, one of the things mentioned in the book is that animals cannot ignore their reflexes or their instincts. We can. As a human, you can make the decision to say, okay, cool, I am hungry, but I will not eat for whatever reason. You're fasting, whatever else, many reasons to not eat. One of the biggest reasons to not eat in Africa is because you don't have food, right? And just richest continent on the planet, right? So discomfort, hunger is also a discomfort. Entrepreneurship. So here's the other fun thing. Oh, that's weird. But you should know what this is. This is Maslow's hierarchy of what you might call it, right? So people who do psychological, physiological studies look at this, and it's also, it ties back to the human action discomfort thing. What it says is what you need are these first to be met, right? Then you can take care of these. Then you can take care of that. Blah, 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 blah. So once you get food, water, shelter, clothing, you're good, right? Then you can focus on your safety and security, which is health, employment, property, family, and social, blah, blah, blah. Then you can focus on love and belonging, so on and so forth. So this is why in America, companies like OnlyFans can become billion-dollar companies. They are not looking at food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. They're not looking at health, employment, property, family, and social ability. They're not looking at friendship. Okay, they're kind of looking at friendship. It's a parasocial friendship, which is one-sided, you engaging with a persona or digital persona, and self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and the need to be a unique individual, right? Morality. I think, OnlyFans is probably here, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential, right? So OnlyFans girls master the art of making a person feel like there's inner potential. Like they always respond to messages. I think it's bots most of the time, but they make money. Oh, before we get to that, right? And so what sucks for us as African entrepreneurs is we try to build for these, but we haven't yet solved for that, right? There's so many potholes. Calvin was talking about his first Buddha experience on stage, that he was still shaking while he was giving his talk, right? Safety and security, right? But This is where entrepreneurs are trying to make money by giving people trips, even though the people may not feel safe or secure. The sad thing is we normalize the danger. I also went to Uganda one day, and they gave me a warning. Let me see my time. They gave me a warning. They said, yo, we're about to get into a pothole. Right? And I was like, yo, we have potholes in South Africa. You don't have to warn me. My goodness. That was the deepest pothole I've ever been to. I feel like the car went in, drove and went out. Right? And I was like, wait, why didn't you warn me that is what's going to happen? It's not a pothole, it's a ditch. Right? And that's when I remembered that Uganda is the capital of potholes in the whole world. When they did the whole social media page of capital potholes Uganda or something like that, I thought it was a joke, but it's a reality. So safety and security. So what we need is to get back on this. Breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep, and then, slowly build up. So from an entrepreneurship perspective, sadly, nothing about this is sexy. Nothing about farming is sexy. Nothing about housing is sexy. And even shelter, right? Slums. I love slums. I grew up in a slum, but slums are very different. There's a huge difference between a slum you live in for the long term and a slum you live in for the short term. There was a picture that was posted about a shack. I commented on it, and on the shack in South Africa, you see bricks on the side of the shack. You can always tell this person is building. 5-10 years down the line, the shack is a house, a dream house. Right? But if it's a short-term shack or a short-term slum, nobody's gonna build. The shack is gonna stay a shack forever. Right? And that is also discomfort. But anyway, let's give a round of applause to Julius Malema. He is the most loved South African in Africa. Right? But he's a South African politician. Right? And he is the leader of a political party called EFF, which stands for Economic Freedom Fighters. His party was the third biggest party in South Africa by votes. They had 10% of the votes. And I forgot this was probably 2019 or something like that. Right? In the 2021 or 2023 elections, he was supposed to be the second biggest party because the DA had fumbled. I forgot what they did, but they had fumbled. So everyone believed they were losing votes. The ANC, well, they're always fumbling, right? The leading party, everyone believed they were going to go from over 50% to below. And so the expectation was these guys were supposed to be either 2 or 1. If you go to my Instagram account, you'll see a bet that I'm saying EFF would have been number 1 in the next elections. That didn't happen because MK Party became number 1, right? DA actually went up in percentage by 1%. ANC lost like 17%. And these guys got like 14%. And EFF lost out on being the third biggest because EFF is trying to be an opposition party. They're not trying to lead South Africa. They could have clearly won that election, but decided to use Hugo Bross tactics in the first game against Mexico, and they lost out. And now, even if you look at the numbers, right, I think this was the election before, and this is the current election. These guys had 44 seats, and now they own 39. The MK Party, new entrance, has 58 seats. So MK Party, led by the former president of South Africa, has more seats than the EFF has ever had. And the EFF, these are the guys that are supposed to be able to convince South Africans to say, yo, this is what you guys need to do for economic freedom, right? If anybody's going to say, do not be xenophobic, these are the guys that should do it. But these are the guys that are failing to communicate their message to South Africans. What they've succeeded in communicating initially, they would wear overalls and domestic worker outfits, or red overalls. And so everybody believed that they were a party for the people, right? So they voted for them. Now the gardeners and the domestic workers are saying, yo, but illegal immigrants are the ones taking these jobs. The EFF isn't able to argue and say, yo, no, what we need to do is support fellow Africans and they are going to fix their problems and blah, 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 blah. They're failing to do any of that. They just say, do not be xenophobic, right? So when a person comes to you with a problem, listen to them as a politician. It's your job to listen to them and have them understand whatever point of view you think is the direction to go. We agree. We have been supported by, and this is just another breakdown because South Africa is also very regionalistic. So there's another party called IFP that got most of its votes in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal. And MK Party actually took over that province, right, which is where Jacob Zuma is based. EFF was in Limpopo, so you would think they'd do a similar thing. Those guys failed, right? They even lost votes in their own province. It's not their own province, it's the province of their leader. So they need to argue better, but they did such a bad job that all their members left. All their major members left. So now the guy is alone. Julius Malema is alone. So I think I need to wrap up. So just the xenophobics should let the authorities handle it. This is a Pan-Africanist position, saying the xenophobes should let the authorities handle it. We have a party called PAC, which is the Pan-Africanist Congress, that only has one seat in South Africa's parliament, and the party is in shambles, right? They are not organized enough. So also they cannot argue for a Pan-Africanist position. So they're out of the picture. They are scared to confront the whites who still own majority of the economy. We also have a party. Oh, no. Who knows what this party is? Exactly. This is AZAPO. This is one of the major liberation movements in South Africa, right? So you had the ANC, you had the PAC, you had AZAPO. So the PAC participated in the 1994 elections, and they got 5 seats from that election out of 400. And then AZAPO was like, yo, there's no reason why you should argue with the apartheid government, right? We need to be starting from scratch. So AZAPO didn't participate in that. And as a consequence, ANC won that election and got the political power, even though, the argument is still the economic power is not yet in the hands of the majority. But these guys didn't get that opportunity. And now they don't have any seats at all. They participated in the following elections, only got 1 seat, and then they lost out. So fix your country, right? And who knows the quote or the title below that? Coffin for the head of state. Calvin? Nobody listens to Fela Kuti in this house. Oh, you know? So this is a man you never have to tell, fix your country, right? He died trying. Sadly, similar to the beautiful ones are not yet born, nothing has improved ever since Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti got to a point where he was like, I'm going to have a country within Nigeria called Kalakuta Republic, named after the prison he was put in. And this song is in response to his mother dying because of his country being invaded by the Nigerian government. And his mother got dropped off of the second floor building, and she died of injuries, right? And that coffin was a symbol for his mother's grave a year after that incident happened, right? Sadly, yet again, Nigeria hasn't improved. Fix your city. Local governance is quite good. I think this is a good way to start. So don't look at the national level. Just start, from a city level. It's much easier to fix your city than to fix your country. So fix your city and then work on the local governance side. I think Pretoria has a nice mayor now who always posts about what they're doing. Whenever they switch off electricity by businesses that owe the city, she'll post something. And she's also switched off electricity of embassies in South Africa. My bad, but it is what it is, and it is effective, So I always pay my municipality bill because I don't want to end up on Twitter. So yeah, fix your town, capital flight. I'm from Pretoria yet again, but specifically Mamelodi. In university, 3 people from my high school got to university. Right? But in the university, I was the only guy from my high school. Right? So what would happen is I would see somebody that looked like a high school friend, but I wouldn't even bother because I was like, nobody from my high school is here. Right? It was that obvious. I think in other terms, it's called seeing ghosts. When you know somebody's dead, so you see somebody like them, but that person is dead, that is how it felt for me. And what I realized is while I was in university, what happened was capital flight. People was leaving the township to go to university. And once you left the township, chances are you never got back because you'd go to university, get a job, work in the city, so on and so forth, and you never went back to your town. And in other cases, your town is not a major town. So let's say Kimberley, where they used to mine diamonds. I have friends from Kimberley who actually lost out on being able to improve their own town because they had to study in Pretoria or Johannesburg or Cape Town and get a job in Pretoria, Johannesburg or Cape Town, and they never contributed back to their towns. So now they're living as either Pretorians, Josians, Johasselburgers, Joe Burgers, or Cape Townians, right? Yeah, so fix your village is also important. Go back to your village. I think if you talk to Ronnie, he'll tell you about the importance of a village. Fix your family as well. Family is the only refuge you'll ever have in your life. Other people can give you refuge, but not for too long, right? So family, number one priority. Fix your family before all else and fix yourself. You cannot fix anything when you are also broken. You know, as they say in the airline, before you help somebody with their mask, put on yours first so that you can actually breathe. And yeah, South Africa is there. And Nkosi sigelela Tina namagang. Cool. Sure, that's it. Any questions? Any questions? I think I may have 5 minutes.